Hello, welcome to the Journey Midweek Connection. Thanks for tuning in to be with us today. Before we get started, I want to remind you that we have the Grove on Friday night and men's breakfast on Saturday. I hope you can come to those. And I also want to highlight that this Sunday we're starting a brand new series at the church. This new series is a call for us to remember who we're called to be. We're talking about why we exist as Journey Church, and we're talking about what God is calling us, what He's calling us to do together as we start this new ministry year. And so it's really important that you're here on Sunday or tuning in so that we're all on the same page and so we can all be pulling together as we start this new ministry season. For your midweek spiritual pick-me-up, I've chosen a verse that I'm working on personally. It's a verse that I just shared with the staff, and it's a verse that I'm going to be sharing in my own home as well with my family. The passage comes from the book of James, chapter 1, starting with verse 19. James says this, "My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires." Now, before we unpack this, I want to remind us that our job is to focus on ourselves with this first. I'm tempted when I read this to think of people that I know that are short-tempered, that lose their cool all the time too easily, or I'm tempted to think about people who start giving advice to me before I've even finished describing the issue that I'm facing. But I think the Holy Spirit wants us to listen to what He would say to us about this verse first today. This passage needs to be carried with us to work. It needs to be carried when we go out with our friends or when we're dealing with our neighbors, and it also needs to be brought with us into our homes. Out of love, James speaks and he says, "My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Here is something important." And then he begins by saying, everyone should be quick to listen. Listening is one of the most underrated acts of Christian love, isn't it? In our world today, we either give advice so fast or we quarrel so fast. I don't think anyone is hardly willing to listen to one another anymore. If you were to make this first sentence the goal of your week, the rest of this week, I think you would see a marked improvement in how your week goes. James is saying, be quick. Jump to it. Be quick to close your mouth. Not bad advice. Be quick to listen. And then James tells us to be painfully slow to speak. Here's the thing I love about James. He is so wise, and throughout his entire book, he is highlighting the power and the impact of our words. He says, be quick to listen. And then he says, hesitate much before you go to open your mouth and let words come out. If you're hyper quick to be quiet and listen, and if you're super slow to begin talking, your brain has a chance to process what you're about to say, and you give a window for the Holy Spirit to catch you before you say something that might come out wrong, that might end up hurting others, or that you might come to regret later, because words are powerful. And then we add the third level to this. Be slow to become angry, because our reactionary outburst of anger that just comes flying out, it doesn't produce the righteousness that God desires for us. It's a pretty simple verse, but if you can apply it this week, it'll be a game changer. Several years ago, before we lived in Kingman, I found myself in a work environment that really tried my patience. I had this weekly meeting that I often found myself quick to become angry, quick to speak, and slow to listen. And so to kind of coach myself, I got in the habit of writing this verse at the very top of my notes that I carried into that meeting. And so when I started feeling my blood pressure rise or my anger levels going up, before I would do anything, I would read that verse a few times to be like, chill, hold on, don't let all that stuff out. Reacting to what was happening in the meeting, blurting, interrupting, or having anger add intensity to what I would try to say, it wouldn't have helped the situation at all. In fact, it would only contribute to making it even worse. Now, the area where I want to see this verse come to life is in my own home. As a dad, I often come home tired, and our schedule after work or after school is sometimes super busy. And I've got 4 kids, 2 of them in high school, 2 of them are in middle school. And so there is temptation sometimes at night when I go home to lose my cool or to not listen and just, here's what you need to do, just solve this problem and we can move on. But I realize those kinds of reactions don't bring about the righteous parenting that I want to offer my kids. And I don't like going to bed at the end of the night thinking, why was I so short with so and so? Or why did I completely lose my cool in that moment? Or why didn't I make time just to sit still and listen to him and share everything that had happened? Why was I so quick to just go about my business? This verse is important. I'll be praying for you, and I'd welcome any prayers that you have for me in this verse as well. That's it for our midweek connection for today, August 11th. We look forward to seeing you here this weekend. Have a great rest of your week.